I love you. Good morning. This cup of Joe. Man, y'all won't let a sister go to sleep, right? It's cup of Joe time. I got shit to do today. Let's see if I can do it. Gotta have that cup of Joe first. I want that cup of Joe. It's cup of Joe time. Come on in, come on in. It's cup of Joe time. Y'all know how I be listening to the news. See what the dum-dums have done today. Let's see what the dum-dums doing today. It's cup of Joe out. Come
which
on.
Zelensky said as a goodwill gesture.
Let's see what the dum-dums doing today.
They don't want you to know about it.
Hey,
Did they say that? They say that, did they? Shit, they put out that kind of shit.
Big cash payout. If you were in a car accident,
I was gonna say, I know they ain't talking about that. That's a damn commercial. That's a damn commercial. I ain't doing that, is it? Oh shit, this the motherfucking Kremlin's motherfucking meeting. This Kremlin shit. Oh man. When they do this? No, they ain't do that today. Couldn't be. Oh man. Oh. Y'all supposed to be a father. Right? Maybe not.
I think Putin's ability to sustain this war is coming to an end. I actually think there's good news here.
And by the way, there's also another comparison you can draw between Russia and Iran. They were both economic basket cases before these wars began.
Another sign of all that is Putin limiting his public appearances and staying in bunkers. Meanwhile, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky
think he gonna stay?
He posted videos on social media showing him meeting with soldiers at a command post, writing that they're part of a group involved in liberating the Dnipro region. Zelensky also mocked Russia online, posting a decree allowing Russia's military parade, which, as we mentioned, included GPS coordinates of Red Square.
I thought they were supposed to exchange soldiers today.
But he wrote on social media, quote, Red
he
Square
visited his
is less
troops.
important to us than the
So
lives
Russia was lying.
of Ukrainian
But of
prisoners
course.
who can be brought home.
Kenny K, you look at
I
what's
thought they were
happened
supposed to do
over the
that.
last 3-4 weeks. There's been a growing realization.
Oh, man, this adult eczema is a
dramatically, as
motherfucker.
David Petraeus has said and others have said, the future of the Secretary of Army said the future of warfare is revealing itself right now in Ukraine. And the Europeans, they made a good and timely bet on the future, while the United States continues dragging
The
its feet
United
behind.
States is
Yeah, I mean, there's a report from The Economist
pieces
just
of
come out
shit.
that the Ukrainians have taken 130 kilometers of frontline territory just in the course of the last few weeks, and that they are making gains. Like you say, Joe, on the battlefield, they got that $100 billion as well from the European Union, so they have more cash. They're doing deals in the Middle East,
Ukraine, they're out there kicking ass and taking names.
more of these drones. They just didn't have the money to do so, so they're getting that now. So they're looking in a much stronger position. I think it's still going to take a while for the Europeans to be able to supply Ukraine with everything that it needs, with America pulling out. Ukraine does, my understanding is Ukraine really does still depend very heavily on American intelligence. It's that last country. In the 80-20 rule, the 20% that America is still giving Ukraine is pretty critical to their ability to fight this war. So they'd still like to keep America on board. But the Europeans have got the message. They've got the message that America is not going to be there. It's going to take them a while to be able to defend themselves.
They got their stuff in there.
But they know
Fuck
that's the direction that they have to move in.
War
and
with his boyfriend.
Putin is looking weaker. I'm waiting for the Ukrainians to drop those little Lego figurine videos that we've been watching out of Iran, where they start trolling President Putin. in the same way that the Iranians have been trolling President Trump, because that's how it feels.
What we
That's where the
doing
balance of
today,
power
y'all?
seems to
What
be.
we doing today?
Okay, coming up, we're gonna have more on Iran and Iran saying no to a surrender to Trump's greed, to use their words. Go ahead, I'm Morning Joe.
You always
Secretary
say no,
Pete Hegseth is
motherfucker.
calling for Deleuze, your latest piece for
Fuck
Financial
you
Times.
thought,
Title,
bitch.
Premature Obituaries for Populism. And in it, you question the belief that the global wave of populism is coming to an end. You write in part, quote, both Trump and Brexit could equally have been declared failures in 2020. Indeed, many believe that COVID was populism's death knell.
Oh,
Trump was
please.
10
Don't
months
have,
into the
no,
pandemic. Evidence of Brexit buyer's remorse was also emerging by then. Neither were borne out. Trump
yeah,
came
that
back
was the
4
last
years
time he
later,
was on.
and
Y'all
Marshall
don't
Farage's
believe.
Europhobic Reform UK has been leading British
Yo,
polls
don't
for more than
believe
a
in the
year.
believe,
Polls
believe.
indicate that a year from now, France could elect
Y'all
Marine
don't
Le Pen
believe
or
in the
Jordan
believe,
Bardella as
believe.
president. Yet people would doubtless then declare a populist resurgence.
So.
Let me go get my cup of joe now.
It's in Hungary, overwhelming defeat for populism in Hungary.
Let me see, can y'all
And
see this
obviously
shit?
Britain right now, in part because of the Tories' total collapse, avoiding
Can y'all see that?
Yeah, I mean, so it's not just a collapse or lack of ideas that you're seeing in the centre-left, Labour with Social Democrats in Germany.
Because who do
arguably
you
the
think you
Democrats in the
are?
United States. It's also the collapse of traditional centre-right
Oh,
parties. So you look at Britain, the Tories and Labour used to get 90-something% between them. They're now polling at less than 40% between them. So it's a story of fragmentation everywhere, volatility. Recently, the Reform Party, the beneficiary of that, but the Green Party on the far left were also beneficiaries of that. It's a story of an electorate just thrashing
cup
around
of joe
looking for whatever
time,
the
cup of
nearest,
joe time, yo.
middle finger sign is that they can find for the way things are going. And so the reason that I
Let's
think
cup of joe
those
time
who
right
are
now.
saying that populism is on the decline or is over, and a number
Y'all
of
come in,
global
throw
voices
that like
are arguing
button.
that. And
Y'all
they're
need to
pointing to
stop playing
Orban's
so
defeat,
much.
which was a major moment in April, and they're pointing to Trump's doldrums and the likely defeat in the midterm elections. I guess they're pointing to Giorgia Meloni's government in Italy actually being more like a normal conservative government than a right-wing populist one. But I think what these people, they're counting too many chickens too soon. And I think what they're overlooking is that some of the conditions that gave rise to populism a decade ago, with Brexit and Trump first being elected, they're as bad, if not worse, today than they were then. And
Yeah, they
until
worse,
the
motherfuckers,
non-populists
they worse.
have got a theory of the case as to how to get us out of this, it's way too soon to be
Well,
writing
we
its
don't
obituary.
know, is it?
This is
Is
Billy.
it way too
He just
soon?
moved into his first apartment. He started with the essentials, the TV. Then Billy met Amanda. Turns out they saw things differently. So now it's just Billy again. And the TV, which was more than a one-time thing. When life happens, look at Tasker.
Commercials.
Yeah, well, the Democratic Party right now certainly doesn't have a way forward. They're flopping about. If you look at their approval ratings,
Haitian Wonder.
and
Let's see if this gonna be a good morning, girl.
Nothing. The bigger question is what happens in 28.
Let's see if it's gonna be a good
It's
morning.
hard to say
Good
exactly where
morning.
this is going to go. I'm a bit
It's
more
Cup of
optimistic
Joe
that
morning.
populism is
Thank you.
because
Yo, come in. Yo, hit the like button.
BBC in 2016. They give
Hit
it back
that
to you.
like.
That's when people find out it's all bullshit. Of course, he didn't say that on the BBC, but I can say that on the show. I do think, though, the one thing we can definitively say here is that Brexit killed the Tory party, as we know it. Brexit killed the Tories. They had no response to it. Boris Johnson went out, made a fool of himself, one conservative leader after another just wasn't up to the challenge of what Ed was just talking about. What's next? Okay, populism doesn't work.
Cup of
is
Joe
what we're doing.
morning, yo. Cup of
Yeah,
Joe
and they
morning.
couldn't find a way to deliver after the Brexit referendum that made a deal that made Brits
Ooh, it's so
feel
hot.
better off. And so I think that's been the malaise that's been particularly the case in the UK over the last 10 years. But I agree with you, Joe. There is a point at which populism, if it fails to deliver for people, and the time frame that I was given back in 2016 was 10 years, we end up with what you've spoken about recently, which is costs and corruption. And then you add in chaos as well. And that was certainly the reason that you had the vote in Hungary that you had. And I think it's the reason that you have
My
the same
cup of
situation
Joe.
here
So hot.
now with people
Ooh, I
looking at
need a
10
cup
years
of
of
Joe.
Trump and thinking,
Bang,
well, am
yo.
I better off? And that's the essential question. Am I better off?
Oh, man.
And what Bernie Sanders is tapping into, the fight the oligarchy and the why. If I'm not better off, but some people seem to be making a lot of money out of it, and that produces quite a lot of unease about the system that they've had. And some of the situations has changed. I mean, both here and in in Europe, certainly, the situation around immigration is different. I mean, the part of the reason you had Brexit was that you had the Syrian war and that massive exodus of refugees from Syria right across Europe. And you've had the border being closed here and much less of an immigration issue. So one of the planks of populism has gone. But I think the other place, I mean, Michael, we've spoke during the course of this program about the fact that in Russia, Ukraine, you see a tipping point towards Ukraine at the moment. And I'm wondering actually how much of that is due to the fact that Putin's policies are becoming increasingly unpopular in the country that he's leading at the moment. Are Russians waking up to the fact that, you know, this is costing them a lot of money, that they don't like what's happening, and they don't like losing people in a war that they don't particularly support?
Yeah, I think so. And I mean, a lot of these wounds are self-inflicted by Putin and the Russian elites. You know, one of the things that's had a major impact on the battlefield, the canceling of Telegram, you know, the social media app that Russians relied on for targeting packages and communicating. Telegram is also widely used within Russia itself. And so restrictions on internet openness are really starting to hit hard amongst the population there. And then, you know, the economy is cratering. I mean, even the sugar rush of sanctions relief, which we provided the Russians because of our war in Iran, somewhat blunted, not entirely blunted by Ukraine's deep strikes on oil refineries and terminals and so on. It's not trickling down to the people, right? And you know, the history of Russia is they can tolerate quite a lot. They can put up with a great deal of pain and heartache, but then it reaches that critical mass. And what's interesting now is you have Western media sort of speculating: is this the beginning of the end of Putin? Is he really on sort of his last legs? And the Russian opposition, for sort of the first time, I mean, they've been saying for 15 years. Remember Bolotna, the big protest movement led by Alexei Navalny in 2011. Well, now there is no leadership of the Russian opposition, and they're all far flung and living in exile. And they're kind of rudderless. They're not there to inherit the country. So there's this kind of great deal of indecisiveness. What's going to happen with the future of this country after the war is concluded?
Richard, I sense that you're not ready to short populism quite yet.
Let me give you two arguments. One is what happened in Hungary. I think it's wrong to interpret that as the end of populism. Orban had been in power for 16 years, had made a hash of many things, including the economy. What you see are rotations of power. So I think it's wrong to see what happened there is somehow all that reassuring. We're going to see the far right, Britain, we're seeing it in other parts of Europe, do okay. Also, what's going to really fuel populism? What did in the past? It was things like job disappearance, in part because of globalization, trade, new technologies, AI.
I think I got it all wrong, yo.
In this country, big time. I think we'd actually, rather than seeing populism recede, I think it's going to grow, in part for the reason you say. Neither party has begun to get serious about addressing prolonged joblessness. So what's so interesting is what's going on in Britain is almost like off-Broadway. The idea that you see sometimes off-Broadway what comes here to Broadway. What we're seeing in Britain, the fragmentation of the political system, it would not shock me if we begin to see it here. A post-Trump Republican Party, MAGA, Greens. I think if the Democrats and Republicans feel to be serious political parties, I actually think that we will see populism institutionalize itself in the United States increasingly.
We need to go to break, but before we do, I just wanted to ask Hattie Kay and Ed Luce, we'll go to you first. What do you think of Richard Haas's description of the King's Round?
I commend Richard for a very apt, accurate description. I mean, you look at New Labour, New Democrats, you look at Thatcher and Reagan, you look at populism in 2016. Brexit was a few months before Trump was elected. I think that some of the best theatre happens in off-Broadway, and they don't always make it onto Broadway.
Yeah, sorry, Richard, but actually some of the best theatre happens in London. Sorry.
Theater happens
Yes, and
in
as proof of
London.
that, we are still waiting for the extraordinary production of Evita
Okay.
to make it from the West End of Broadway.
Ed Luce of the Financial Times and editor at The Insider, Michael Weitz. Thank you both
Thank
very
you,
much
guys.
for coming up this morning.
Give
Coming
me
up,
some sausage
we'll have the
and
latest in the
eggs,
fallout
yo.
from the Virginia Supreme Court's decision on redistricting. And later, London Mayor Sadiq Khan will be our
This settlement check
Give me some
completely changed my
sausage
life.
and
And it
fucking eggs. Or some shit. Something.
came from a car.
Hungry. Get some watch time hours, yo. Oh my god. Oh, damn. This eczema is killing me. Really, I don't believe you.
They're going to try to play us, then they're going to find that the negotiating team is not that receptive.
Also negotiating, real estate developer Steve Witkoff, who's special envoy to the Middle East, and Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, a self-proclaimed government volunteer who has billions of dollars of financial interests in the region. An issue, folks.
They're getting those fucking clowns in the whole lot of money.
Tonight, throttling the world's oil supply. The impact hitting the U.S. economy hard, with new data showing consumer confidence at a record low. The Associated Press reports the largest monthly jump in gas prices in 6 decades caused a sharp spike in inflation last month, heightening already substantial political hurdles for the White House. Here's what that means for you. Compared to 1 year ago, gas is up nearly 19%, beef up more than 15%, airfare is up nearly 15%, and electricity, that thing to turn the lights on and off, close to 5%. As Americans feel the hurt and uncertainty looms over Iran, one big question tonight: why are Republicans still silent? House Speaker Mike Johnson and Senate Majority Leader John Thune have said virtually nothing during their 2-week recess. That ends next week, and Democrats say they're ready to hold Republicans and Donald Trump accountable. We're going to force another war powers vote upon our return to Washington, D.C.
The Senate will vote next week on the War Powers Resolution. Republicans will once again have the opportunity to join Democrats and end this reckless war of choice.
They ain't gonna join you.
Democratic Senator Chris Coons of Delaware. He is a member of the Foreign Relations Committee.
Senator Coons, thank you so much for joining us this evening. I have a two-part question for you. There has been so much misinformation that has come from this administration regarding Iran. So the first part of my question would be, do you know what's in the ceasefire? What's the latest? When's the last time you were briefed, someone of your prominence, especially regarding this issue? And secondly, now that we're multiple weeks into this war, is it true to say that Iran has almost come out better than they were when it started in terms of their regional prowess?
Of course.
Luke, you're right that 42 days into this costly war, the main winners are Iran and Russia. Tomorrow, President Trump gets to decide whether to continue the waiver of sanctions on the sale of Russian oil. A whole group of us in the Senate believe that he should not, because Russia has been profiting off this war. And as your question implied, so has Iran. They're making more money off of their oil exports now than they were before the war. And yes, we have degraded their ballistic missiles and sunk a lot of their navy and killed a lot of civilians and sacrificed the lives of 13 brave American service members and hundreds more who've been wounded. This war has had real costs. But so far, it hasn't achieved any of its major aims. Has there been regime change?
No.
Not really. We're on Ayatollah 2.0, and the IRGC is more in control of Iran than it was before the war. Have we destroyed their ability to launch drones and missiles? at our bases and our regional partners and allies? No, they're still at it. And do we have a clear plan for how to move on from this disastrous war of choice? No. And I have not been briefed on it in any particular detail in the last 2 weeks.
And yet, Senator, President Trump, on his way out of town tonight at JBA Airport, said that he didn't feel like he needed a backup plan in case things go awry tomorrow. Let's give this a listen. I'll ask you that on the other side.
Damn.
They're militarily defeated,
Good.
and now we're going to open up the
Stupid
Gulf
ass
with or without them. But that'll be open. We're going to be, or the Strait as they call it, and I think it's going to go pretty quickly. And if it doesn't,
There you go, lying again. Everything.
One way or the other.
One way or the other. You got your bitch ass in
You don't
there.
need a backup plan.
You don't need a backup plan. He's so damn dumb. What?
One way or the other. Remember previously when he said the Strait of Hormuz will just open up all on its own?
Yeah, like COVID was going to go away all
more
on its own.
concerned about building a ballroom with foreign steel, planning a 250-foot victory arch, than he is in whether or how to actually achieve victory in an ongoing war that he started. And the person he sent to negotiate, J.D. Vance, I'll remind you, his most recent foray overseas was to campaign for a pro-Putin authoritarian in Hungary, who's up for election this weekend. So President Trump has dispatched 2 real estate developers with no foreign policy experience to speak of, a vice president who was briefly a senator and is spending more time on burnishing his own record in ballrooms and arches than he is in coming up with concrete and credible plans, either direct plans where he's consulting with Congress or backup plans where he's engaging our allies.
Having
This
a
is
cup
failed
of
leadership.
Joe and listening
And this
to the
failed leadership,
incompetence of this
Senator, has led
administration.
to a lot of frustration and consternation among the American people, among rank and file members of the MAGA community as well, because of the prosecution of a war they don't think should be prosecuted, in addition to the weight of the current economy. When you go back and you look at the national average of gas prices, because that's a metric that touches everybody in some way or fashion. At the start of this war, gas was $2.98 a gallon. A month ago, it was $3.53 a gallon. Yesterday, it was $4.66. Today, it's $4.15. I'm sorry, $4.16, $4.15. So the reality of it is, we've gone from $2.98 to $4.15 in a matter of a month. And the reality for a lot of families out there, in addition to the cost that I laid out at the beginning, the cost in beef going up, airline tickets going up, electricity going up. What kind of summer do you anticipate, given that the president says he doesn't need a backup plan? I guess if you don't have a plan, you don't need a backup plan. So let's be clear about that.
I think, Michael, this will be a rough summer for the American people. I'll remind you that Donald Trump, when he ran for president, promised to lower your costs, to make America healthy again, to release the Epstein files, and no new stupid foreign wars, no new regime change wars. Well, how's he doing on those? The First Lady walked out yesterday to give an impromptu, apparently unexpected press conference about Epstein. How badly is the war going that you need to change the subject to the Epstein files? And the one thing she didn't say spoke pretty loudly. She did not say, I am certain my husband had nothing to do with it and was unaware of Epstein's crimes. She did not say that. So how's he doing at making America healthy again? He's taken away healthcare from millions of Americans. Healthcare costs are up and healthcare coverage is down. And then last, the point you were just making, Michael, not just the cost of gas, but with fertilizer being constrained by the Strait of Hormuz blockage, the cost of groceries and food, the cost of airline travel, the cost of anything that moves in a truck, they're all going up. So I think this will be a rough summer for the Trump administration. I think his going on his gut and doing things by winging it at the last minute are going to come back to roost. And I think there will be a lot of pain for the American people, which is truly regrettable. but an entirely predictable result of re-electing a president whose failure to predict or respond effectively to the pandemic in his first administration led to a disastrous economic collapse and a nationwide health crisis. I hope we don't see things that bad again, but I remind folks, we knew who he was at the end of his first term. Now we're seeing him make equally bad choices this term.
Yeah, inflation up 2.4% just since February. It's a remarkable own goal by the Trump administration, considering this very much was a war of choice, not one necessarily of necessity. One thing that we hear a lot from our audience, Senator, is this question of what can Democrats do? What can members of Congress and the Republican side who perhaps are very uncomfortable with this imperial presidency that we see in the executive branch moving forward? What can the legislative branch do specifically to try and have some skin in the game here? There's talk about possibly having a War Powers Act. We always know about the authorization for use of military force. Do you feel that some of your Republican colleagues, especially some of those old guard, neoconservative, hawkish folks, are a little uncomfortable with no congressional input in this, especially when there's a ceasefire that I have not heard anybody on Capitol Hill has actually been able to read in totality?
Yes. Look, the administration has been just bluntly disrespectful of Congress and our role representing the American people. President Trump didn't come out and make a case to the American people before he launched this war, and he didn't seek our engagement or approval at all. We will have a chance to vote again on a war powers resolution this coming week. And I hope there will be some Republicans voting against authorizing this war because they know it was so ill-planned and is so far going so badly. We also will have a chance to vote on whether or not to fund this war. I'm the senior Democrat on defense appropriations, and I won't provide a backdoor authorization for the war through a defense supplemental. Last, to the point you were implying, there are a number of Reagan Republicans who I talk to regularly who are very unhappy about Trump's imminent abandonment of Ukraine. The bigger war that was already going for several years was Russia's brutal aggression against Ukraine. The Ukrainians have stood up and fought bravely. They have developed the best-in-class drone defense in the world, and they just helped several of our allies and partners in the Persian Gulf block and defend themselves against the waves of Iranian Shahed drones, which are also the drones being launched at Ukraine. We shouldn't abandon Ukraine. And Russia's making more money than they've ever made because of their oil exports and the sanctions waiver that Trump's giving them. And I'm afraid that Trump is going to come to us and say, now that we've used all of our Patriot interceptors, our ATACMS, our LRADs, all of our sophisticated munitions in this war in Iran, we've got nothing more for Ukraine. There's a number of senior senators who are very upset about that possibility. And I hope they'll speak out and stand up. But the record so far, Luke, isn't very encouraging.
Senator, before we're out of time, almost a year ago, you were critical of the administration when they picked up diplomatic conversations with Iran, those negotiations looking similar, as you accused them to some of the terms that President Obama had negotiated in the JCPOA. Tens of billions of dollars of incentives and reduced sanctions for Iran.
Have a plan.
Obviously, you said that you have not been briefed on the specifics of what the ceasefire looks like and what this administration is actually going to put on the negotiating table. But based publicly on what you know about the contours of what's being discussed right now, how does this deal potentially compare to the JCPOA?
Well, look, frankly, right before he launched this war of choice against Iran, I had hoped that President Trump would get a deal, and this is what was reported by the Omani foreign minister who was acting as a go-between, that looked a lot like the Obama-Iran deal, but stronger, without a sunset date, dealing with ballistic missiles, downblending the highly enriched uranium that is still somewhere in Iran. I don't know that they can get that deal again now, after 42 days of war, but constraining Iran's nuclear enrichment program, making sure they never get a nuclear weapon, is still an important national security goal, and one that I'd like to believe they're going to put at the front and try to achieve. So far, frankly, what I've seen from this administration is they're not talking about democracy. They're not talking about liberating the Iranian people from the Prussian control of the IRGC, and they're simply focused on seizing control of their oil, much as Trump was with Venezuela, where instead of moving towards free and fair elections, we're simply trying to get access and control of their natural resources. That then casts America not as the hero of history, but as a colonial power in Venezuela and Iran, and that's not a good path for us.
Senator Chris Coons, thank you so much for joining us this evening. We appreciate it.
Yeah. Okay.
It's Todd's biggest sale of the year. Save up to 30% until.
All right, y'all. Let's go make some breakfast. I got some sausage and eggs in there. Let's see what the hell we can do with it. Ah, fuck. All right. Oh, come on. I called you. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Let's go do some fucking breakfast. Come on, man. Stop doing this shit. That shit'll never happen. Yeah, it's a cup of joy breakfast. I'm hungry. I have to clean my hand. I burnt my hand, y'all. I burnt my hand really bad. Let's see what we can do about breakfast time. Let's go get some breakfast.
On May 18th at pods.com. You wash your whole body every day, so why don't you wash your whole...
Oh, look at that. What's up, yo? Cup of Joe time. Oh, Joy, just having a cup of Joe. Let's hit this. Oh, yo. Oh, man. Let's see. I think I got nothing up here.
Breaking news from the Wall Street Journal. Donald Trump has promised mass pardons to top administration officials before his term ends. Plus, we'll have live coverage of Artemis II's return to Earth. Splashdown is now less than an hour away. You're watching The Weeknight.
Tonight from the Wall Street Journal, Donald Trump has repeatedly promised his top administration officials pardons before he leaves office, according to people who've heard his comments. The Journal reports that in a recent meeting, Trump said, quote, "I'll pardon everyone who has come within 200 feet of the Oval." And the radius apparently keeps expanding the more the president repeats that line.
Of course he is, of
Joining us
course.
now, Rena Shaw, former senior Republican congressional aide. She's now a geopolitical advisor and strategist. And also Jason Johnson. He's a professor of politics and journalism at Oregon State University and an MS Now political contributor.
Welcome to you both. So, Serena, let's get a little bit more into the Wall Street Journal editorial or story, noting the president has repeatedly raised the specter of pardons with the White House aides and other administration officials, particularly when staff has suggested they could face prosecution or congressional investigations over decisions that the president makes. People familiar with the comments said Trump is known to joke about matters that he later seriously pursues, and the frequent references have led some aides to believe he's serious about the pardons too. The Caroline Levitt told the Wall Street Journal, quote, "The Wall Street Journal should learn to take a joke. However, the president's pardon power is absolute." So he gonna do it.
I mean, number one, the most unsurprising news, I believe, because of course he wants pardons for his people. I mean, they have surely heard stuff. Now, things in the realm of crimes, who knows? He's not thinking about that. Secondly, though, it's like this administration does not know when it's a bad look. I'm wondering who's like doing their messaging.
Don't give a fuck.
Sometimes.
They're
Is that
doing
just
it
say,
right
hey,
in the
do this,
open.
don't let it leak. And also, let's not talk about it
They're
now.
bitches.
I mean, come on. At the end of the day,
about it.
it serves him in no way to do it now. And I think that's just what it is. It's what it is. Thirdly, though, you got to believe we are the most litigious society. So, of course, he knows that the minute these guys are out, and you never know when they could be out, okay? I think the chessboard is shifting in a way that I feel like something is going to happen. Something's going to happen, and he wants to protect those closest. I've seen it in every way. I see how he and Melania are protecting their old friend, Paolo Zampoli, who doesn't need to be protected, but they know something we don't know. So that's just shows us, again, these people are scared, and trying to lead from a scared position is always a bad thing.
I'm wondering though if this is an answer that you would have given prior to Joe Biden issuing pardons to his family members as part of his final acts in office. There's some reporting in there by my former colleague Josh Dawsey that there's a sort of a feeling that because he committed this norm-breaking precedent by issuing sweeping pardons to some family members and to top officials, that it essentially cracked open the door. Jason, I mean, do you think that the president needed the door cracked open? Was this inevitable?
Like, Trump kicked in the door waving a 4-4 10 years ago, right? This is what he does, right? He hands, you can say somebody at the club, you can say it's Oprah Winfrey, you get a pardon, you get a pardon, you get a pardon. This is what he does, right? Like, and what's bizarre to me, both from an internal standpoint and an external political standpoint. Internally, why does anyone believe Donald Trump will protect you? He protects no one. So if that man told me
right now, if it gets to
for
something
now,
salacious,
because it vaguely has to do with him, but every single other person, Cohen,
Fair.
his lawyers, no one gets protected by Donald Trump. So I would not trust the paper or the promise that this was made on. But I think the secondary issue is this. This is a challenge to the Democratic Party. You guys want to take over? You should be running on the idea that you're going to prosecute anybody. I dare you to step out of this administration, because the moment you're out, we're going to prosecute you. If the Democratic Party had the backbone to say that they were going to prosecute people who had committed crimes in this administration, then maybe that makes more sense. But right now, they seem so feckless that these people may not need pardons, because the Democrats are going to try and move on instead of holding them accountable.
Well, that'll be the million-dollar question, is will there be special select committees if the Democrats take back the House, and if the Democratic president came back, would you have someone with more teeth than Merrick Garland?
Yes.
You know, I look at this in this way. This administration is so lawless, okay? This idea that you're going to give pardons to everybody within a certain circumference of the Oval Office is the same idea of why Renee Good's death goes without prosecution. Why Alex Preddy's death goes without prosecution. Why you have 1,600 pardons so far in this administration seemingly for sale. Why white-collar crime is being prosecuted at its lowest rate in history. You have an entire apparatus that's set around essentially what is mafioso style, right? If we're good, we're safe. Do you think that they can continue that going forward? Because where it seems right now, Professor, is that they don't seem like a White House that's concerned about laws. They seem concerned about losing power. No, they seem to be acting like we'll be okay.
Well, look, if you look at the head of the Department of Pardons, Ed Martin Jr., this guy calls himself a Trump lawyer, right? He has a history of his own sort of background, scandals and issues like that. So he's going to do whatever it is that Trump wants him to do when it comes to these kinds of issues. But again, most of the people in this administration, they're made men, right? They're part of the mob. Now, I bet you if you're Kristi Noem or Pam Bondi, you might have a tape measure like 200 feet from your house. Like they might be trying to check to make sure that they're going to be covered. Exactly. You better check with metric, inches, and everything else like that. But for the most part, his voters don't care, right? They don't. Thus far,
January 6th proved that.
Exactly.
There's an average American out there looking at this saying Biden did it, so of course Trump's going to do it too. I would give the same exact answer. I didn't think it was right when Biden did it either.
I don't think that pardoning your son who has like emotional issues and drug issues and everything else like that from an incoming administration that says our whole point is revenge, like our brand is revenge. I don't think protecting your son from an incoming authoritarian regime is the same thing as protecting people who have committed crimes on your behalf. That's, to me, it's completely
because those those pardons in the Biden situation didn't go to behavior or criminal behavior of his son. He did those blanket pardons because he, to your point, knew exactly who was coming in, because for up to a year before, Donald Trump telegraphed. Remember, he launched his campaign saying, I'm about retribution. So if you tell me you're going to hit me and I don't defend myself or my family at some point in that process, then it's on me. So to that extent, I get it. But here's where I kind of land down on all of this, Rena. At some point, at a future Congress, in somewhere down the road, because we'll see what happens in the short term, is there a way or a mechanism to begin to rethink power? The Constitution, he has the power to do it. He says it's absolute. There's debate about all of that, and there are supposedly some guardrails, I guess. Donald Trump doesn't know a guardrail from a guardrail, but the reality is we're going to have to fix this, because this door is now open by a Democratic president and a Republican president, and it doesn't bode well for the country when those lines get blurred to the point where the crime, the criminal behavior is not distinguished from protecting someone from being politically persecuted by the administration.
I grapple with this all day long because it's not a quick fix. It is a problem that the lines are blurred because most people have tuned out. They don't see the difference. I mean, you know me, I'm a family person. I believe in President Biden, the statesman that tried to protect his son, but I'm also like, it's set a precedent. And most people are looking at it that same just plain way. They can't go deeper. How do we get deeper? We get people to understand what authority the president has. We have an executive right now that overreaches every day of the week. And the tariffs case that I was part of the amicus brief on recently with Norm Eisen and other friends of ours, that was really important to me because it wasn't about, are these tariffs like here or there, everywhere. It was about the overreach. The executive was committing, his ability to do what he did. So when we talk about power, we need to have a public conversation about it. We need to change sentiment on it. And with an entire generation of millennials and Gen Zers, I see the opportunity to do it, but we can't do it as long as the lawmakers that sit here remain in power. So we need to get them out because they're going to continue to protect their own and not talk about the serious systemic issues. Because there are younger conservatives in deep hollers of West Virginia, near where I grew up, that care about the systemic reform. Conservatives.
Mm-hmm. All right. Rena Shaw, Jason Johnson, thank you both. Good conversation. When we come back, Artemis 2 is on its way back to Earth and set to splash down near San Diego in just about 30 minutes. The latest right here on the weeknight.
Confused by the Medicare ABCs? If you have Original Medicare, then you have Parts A and B. Have you considered Part C? Medicare Part C is sometimes known as a Medicare Advantage plan, and it's one of the best ways to help protect yourself from out-of-pocket Medicare costs. If you only have Medicare Parts A and B, there are three things you should do. 1, call the number on your screen. 2, give the licensed insurance agent your zip code. 3, see what Part C plans with benefits are available to you. 1, 2, 3. It's that easy. Medicare Part C plans are available with benefits you may not be receiving with your current plan. If you're losing coverage, moving, or new to Medicare, you may be eligible to enroll in the plan today, but you won't know unless you, 1, call the number on your screen now. 2, your zip code.
Let's cook some, y'all.
So the identification process is fast and it's from there. CookieBot sets and gives you visitors clear choices about which types of data collection. The user makes a choice, so that decision gets
I don't know what's wrong with this motherfucker here.
what they've consented to are blocked on that. The whole consent chain,
Bitch.
blocking to the record keeping is handled without you having to manually manage it. CookieBot also integrates directly with the consent mode.
Alright, this shit to be tight.
They function whilst they're respecting user consent. Microsoft Unique Consent is now, how do you actually set it up in WordPress? It really is straightforward. You install the CookieBot plugin from the WordPress plugin directory,
Alright, so let's fucking have some sausage and eggs up here. If I can get this shit to act right. Damn, I gotta get another one of these. I'm sick of this shit. Come on, man.
Copy the script directly from the Cookiebot dashboard and paste it into the pattern. Either way, the setup takes about 10 minutes. Once you're up,
Alright, yo.
looks to match your site.
Well, whatever.
Layouts, adjust colors, add your own logo, and edit things.
Alright, yo. I got some more shit going on around here, man. Let this kind of heat it up. We're gonna have some sausage and eggs, because that's what I got. It'll be fine, it'll be fine.
Cookiebot supports over 40 languages and automatically translates banners based on where your visitors come from. One thing that's not specific is that Cookiebot also lets you add a to your privacy policy. It's a small block of code that automatically displays all the cookies your site is using, categorized and updates automatically as your site.
Got some turkey sausage here, y'all.
Without any manual work from you.
Turkey sausage.